Okay, so you started singing at age 5?
At age 5, yeah.
Okay, in the church?
In church.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and was it just natural? Was it like as soon as you started singing, or did it take a little while to develop and vocal lessons and so forth?
Never took vocal lessons. It was something that kind of developed naturally because, my dad, when you're a PK, my dad had on sometimes on Mondays and Wednesdays, they would have, you have to go, you're in church all day on Sundays. And then, from those Bible studies and going to church and being in church, all the time, there was always singing going on. This was the weirdest thing for me because as a kid, honestly, I thought everybody could sing. Because when you grow up singing, especially in Baptist church, everybody wails. Everybody pretty much can sing. So I never thought there was anything different from what I was doing besides just what everybody else do, sing. Well, my dad bought us those instruments and I started playing and, it was weird because it wasn't weird. It was just I was the youngest, and my brothers, they would push me out front. And I always make this joke about my dad being almost like a miniature Joe Jackson because my dad started us to rehearsing and for us to start singing in church. And my dad was, when I was a kid, my voice was so high that you would have absolutely thought it was a girl singing. And I, just out of when I turned about 13, all of a sudden my voice one day just took a drop. But all that time, and my dad used to get on me about singing so high. And I'm like, hell, I didn't know. I'm just singing because it's just how my voice was and I was just singing. But my brothers would push me out front and I didn't know any better. I'm just like, okay.
Well, right. You guys were in a group called Wings of Faith.
The Wings of Faith.
Right. Almost like a Jackson 4 kind of.
Yeah. Little John. It was Little John and the Wings of Faith.
Okay.
Yeah.
Little John and
the Wings of Faith,
the Wings of Faith.
But even before then, we were in a family group with my aunties and my cousins and my grandmother, a group called the Gospel Stimulation. That was actually before the Little John and the Wings of Faith took shape because we started with my whole family. Yeah.
Okay, so you had a friend, Stacy Ladisaw.
Yeah.
She convinced you to record a demo?
She was the one who convinced me to record a demo. The craziest thing was, this is like so crazy. We grew up and, we went to elementary school together. We sang in this place, this thing called the Glee Club. And at that time in the Glee Club, everyone, it was just a little group thing that they had in elementary school where there was several people that we, all just would gather with the music teacher and we would sing, she would teach us different songs. And it was so funny because after Stacy ended up getting her record deal, Stacy became quite popular and it was crazy because we all used to hang out. Her house was the hangout spot. Like after school, it's like her place was like Disneyland to us. After school, we would go, everyone would meet over there. We'd play, volleyball, softball. We would go, there was a guy who I'm dear friends with today, Bob Pitts, who used to come pick us up, all the kids that was over there in the neighborhood, take us bowling, roller skating. It was like, you didn't know what was going to happen from day to day being over there, but that was like the hangout spot. And and so we hung out for years over there. And I remember my mom and dad had split up years before, and they were actually talking about trying to reconcile and come back together. And I'll never forget, we packed up our things and was heading back to Columbus, Georgia, because that's where my dad had moved to. Well, he actually was in Phoenix City, Alabama. But when we many years before, we had moved to Columbus, Georgia for a few years before my mom and dad split up. So when they talked about getting back together, and we ended up going, making plans to go back to Columbus, Georgia, to live, we had packed up everything and started heading and making our way back there. And I remember getting there. When we arrived there, and my dad was talking about he had this place for us and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. We got there. We looked at the house, and I'm looking at the place that we were getting ready to move into that wasn't even finished. And it was not like it was a house being built. It was just, it needed work. And I'll never forget walking out on the front yard, into the front yard, and thinking and saying to myself, looking up in the sky, I said, boy, what I would do to be in Stacy's shoes right about now. Lo and behold, maybe a few days afterwards, I got a phone call from Stacy.
Okay.
It's the craziest thing I've ever experienced in my life. And I understand when people talk about manifesting and all that stuff, that's where it all started for me. The first time I experienced that. And I didn't even know back then. It still didn't register to me. That's what this is called, manifesting. But, and I remember she said, hey, I talked to the president of the record label about you. And he wanted to hear, hear your voice. And there's a possibility they might want to sign you, but he wanted to hear your voice because we was telling him about you, her and her mom and her dad. And I remember I said, yeah, we're coming back to D.C. to pick up some more of our things in a few weeks. And when we arrived, I talked to her, and then they also introduced me over the phone to the president of the record label, Henry Allen.
Of Atlantic Records.
Of Atlantic Records,
right.
yeah.
Which is a big deal.
Yeah. And I remember this guy asking me to sing over the phone. And I sang over the phone. First, before I did that, she said that he wanted me to make a demo tape. You gotta understand, for me, I'm from the church. I don't know what the hell about the demo tape is.
Right.
And so I had a $29 tape recorder, the ones where you press record and play, and
2 fingers. Right?
Yeah. So I sang The Greatest Love of All, and I sang the Manhattan song. I sang it was the Manhattan song. And then when I made the tape, they got it over to him, and I got a phone call. And he asked me about singing over the phone. And I sang for him over the phone. And he said, yeah. He was a big cigar smoker. He's like, yeah. Say, listen, hold on. Sing it again. Sing this again. So he went and got a couple of people and he put them on the phone. I sang again. He goes, yeah. Little John? What? I said, yes. He goes, yeah, sing it again. I want you to sing it again. He went and got some of the staff on the floor, 3rd floor above him. And I think I don't know how many times I must have sang for him over the phone. And then from there, he says, we want to bring you to New York. He says, have you ever flown on a plane before? I said, no, never. I was a kid. I might have been, all of 14? Yeah. And, when we finally got to, they brought me up to New York and gave me all the instructions to my mom what was happening, what we need to do. Because my mom didn't come with me. They had this guy named Clarence Bullock. They call him CB. He was, met me there in New York. First time I'd ever gotten on the plane. And I had my little guitar and my slacks and my shirt, and dressed up thinking, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I did know this. When you start talking about a record deal back then, that meant we knew that was major.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially with Atlantic.
Yeah.
And it was the subsidiary, Cotillion Records?
Cotillion, yes. Cotillion is where my first record was released there on Atlantic Cotillion. So it was crazy. It was that was a time, but just the fact that I remember when I was looking up in the sky and said that and said, wow, what I wouldn't do to be in her shoes, and how all of it just kind of manifested. And then you sit there and you think, there's someone who used to say, there's old saying, be careful what you wish for.
Can I hear an example of what you sang over that phone?
I did a, honey, you are my shining star. Don't you go away. No, baby. And he just kept saying, he kept saying, yeah, sing it again.
That's it. So you're not even singing original songs. You're just
No,
doing
'cause
covers at this point.
Yeah, it's covers.
But they heard the potential
Yeah.
right there.
But it was
inside you,
funny.
okay?
God bless her heart. She's still a good friend of mine. She's like family. Her name was Pat. At the time, her name was Pat Jones. And she said to Henry Allen when they got the cassette tape, she told me this many years afterwards, she said, they heard the tape and said, what are you going to do with that? Because there was no music, no nothing. I didn't know anything about playing and singing and or production stuff. I had not a clue, none of that stuff. But God bless Henry Allen, because he could hear from that raw point of what there, the talent that was there. And man, he God bless him.
Yeah, I mean, this is back in the day of talent development and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to now where you already need a viral song and you need 1 million views.
Full production.
No. Yeah, back then,
mixed,
if you heard that right voice, you're willing to invest.
Yeah.
And actually develop that artist through multiple albums and get them there. So yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah.